Join me on an inspiring journey through the world of fitness, health, and performance with the Genetic Coach, where I delve deep into the genetic foundations of athletic endurance, discovering how genetics is revolutionizing our understanding of human potential and how we can unlock our full athletic capabilities through a fresh perspective on conventional practices. Hello, and thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Genetic Coach. I'm so thrilled to be chatting with our special guest today in the form of newly turned professional in the Women's World Tour Peloton, Kim Lecourt-Pinard. Kim is currently riding for the AG Insurance Soudal team, having had some breakthrough results this year, including double wins in the road race and time trial at the Mauritius National Champs, followed by a stage win at the Giro d'Italia. She represented her nation at the Olympic Games in Paris and competed at the Tour de France Femmes in August, where she took 2 top 10 stage finishes. Kim is currently spending some downtime in South Africa while recovering from injury, and she has very kindly offered up some of her day to give us some insights into her world of living her dream and racing in Europe. So a warm welcome to you, Kim.
Hi, yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Are you loving being back in South Africa and familiar surroundings, even though you had to cut your season short?
Yeah, for sure. I think to be honest, I wasn't looking forward to coming back unplanned. I was only supposed to be back end of October. So when I've got my mind set to something and I've got still a few races such as World Champs, gravel and road, and you have to miss those to kind of go and fix your wrist, it's not ideal. But the positive side of it was that I would be back home and see my friends and be with my husband and in my own little comfort place at home. But yeah, I mean, it's been good being home. It's just been an adjustment mentally, to be honest. But I've been focusing on recovery and yeah, just trying to enjoy this time because I know once it's get busy next year, I'm gonna regret not enjoying it as much.
Yeah. For sure. So tell us a little bit about your injury. What happened? How did you sustain the injury? And what is the rehab included? And how is it going?
So we are not 100% sure how I got it, but I did have a fall at Ghent Wevelgem end of March this year. I did fall on the left side, which was on the side where my left wrist got injured. But in the same following week, I did recon of Roubaix and Flanders, which both races are on cobbles most of the time. And that's only from those recons that my wrist started to kind of give me some niggles and pain. I didn't think much of it at first. I told the team about it. We said, let's just take a few days. Maybe I'm not used to cobble riding and my wrist is not used to it. And I just kind of, put too much pressure on the one side and it's nothing serious. But following weekend, raced Flanders, raced Roubaix. And honestly, from there, it was quite a slippery slope. My wrist I couldn't use it anymore. I couldn't lean on it anymore. So then we were really serious on figuring out what's going on. After a few months of trying to figure it out, doing x-rays and MRIs and blurry MRIs and more MRIs, we finally found out that I do have a partial tear of my DIC ligament. We first thought it was going to be the scapholunate ligament, but the clear MRI that I did in South Africa showed that it's not the scapholunate, but it's a DIC, and that I also have this little ganglion under my thumb, which was probably also in between when I do my movement of the wrist leaning backwards, it's kind of getting in between and getting stuck. So the decision was for me to get surgery done, remove the ganglion, remove a pin nerve, which also would help to not ever get in the way of anything in that sort of dorsal position of the wrist. And unfortunately, we're not able to fix the ligament because there's many little partial tears on the ligament. So it's not something that we can directly fix on one shot and do a reconstruction, which is a positive thing because that's a very long recovery. But it's also in a way, we're not sure now afterwards if my wrist is going to fully recover from this, or is it kind of going to stay the same? Obviously, now it's too soon to say. It's only been 4 weeks. So
okay. And so you're obviously rehabbing and doing everything that you can to get it to a better place. That takes time, I guess. And have they given you any kind of outlook on what the progression is going to be?
Yeah, so I've been in this obviously post-surgery big race around my wrist for about 10 days. And post that, I then now have this wrist brace that I can kind of remove if I want to, because the stitches are out, which I have it off most of the day now to start movements of the wrist and start getting the blood flow going and the muscles working. Because obviously having it in the brace for so long, the muscles stop working and they think that the brace is basically doing their job. So they're losing a bit of strength. So now it's a lot of rehab, massaging the area, which is super painful, and moving the wrist as much as possible, using a soft ball and squeezing it and try and getting the wrist to kind of move again, because where I've got my stitches, everything is stuck together. So my skin has it's just not moving. So when I move my wrist forward and backwards, there's not much movement because of all this tension in the wrist. So now it's mostly about movements and getting it back to normal. It's going to take time. They suggest about 6 weeks of being able to use it as normal. But yeah, knowing me, I've been on the indoor already and I've been trying to lean on my wrist every day, but it's just not, I feel a little bit of a progress every week, but it's not, I can't fully lean on it or use it or lift heavy things yet. So I've got to be patient.
So how do you deal with that as a pro athlete? I mean, obviously you've got that frustration that you're thinking you need to be on the bike and you need to be doing the work on the bike, but you can't really be doing it properly. And how do you balance the frustration of not being able to do it, knowing that you should be, and how do you keep yourself motivated through the whole rehab process?
Yeah, I think obviously having those setbacks is not it's not easy, but it's also part of the journey. It's part of the job, and it's something that I can't control as an athlete. I kind of try and shift my energy into like other things that I can improve while not using my wrist, such as like nutrition or working with my mental coach to help me get through those things, focusing on other things that is happening in my life, focusing on my husband or other things that I have more time to now put focus on, and try and kind of overlook the situation and just trust the process, and also kind of focus on the rehab. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. The more you focus on getting better now, and the quicker you'll get back on the bike and can train for 2025. But for me, it's more looking to the bigger picture. I've got big goals set for next year, and I know this is just a small phase, and everyone gets over it. I've known people with worse injuries and they're now performing to the best level. So I just have to trust the process and take it day by day.
Yeah, I think so, right. Like just zooming out of the picture and putting things into perspective of, where you are in your whole sort of story. And I mean, you've got a wonderful story about pursuing your dream of riding road in Europe. Maybe you can just walk us through the story of yours and how it all has culminated in you now riding for the world tour.
Yeah, I think it's pretty surreal. Because obviously my friends from Mauritius, and they kind of see now where I am and what I'm doing with my life, and kind of achieving this, I would say, childhood dream of a lot of my friends. It's crazy. I really don't have words to describe how I got here. It's just things that have happened in my life that I've just grabbed. I'm someone that just grabs opportunities and just tests the limits. My husband is the person that has motivated me and put me in the situation that I'm today. I mean, I've known him for 11 years now, and he's been part of my journey, and he's been the biggest support I've ever had. Last year, after having a crazy, insane season on the mountain bike, I'm someone that's never settled with winning one race over and over and over again. I just always want to challenge myself and reach bigger and better, and just push myself to not stay in a comfort zone, I would say. Yes, of course, I would love to win the Cape Epic 4 times or 5 times, and Swiss Epic, and it becomes you just plateau as an athlete, and you do not have that motivation to thrive for more. And I'm just that person. And Ian was like, okay, well, now what do we do now? I said, I don't know. I guess we just have to focus and find sponsors for 2025 and restart. And he's like, no, but you will regret it if you do not try and go back on the road, which was my ultimate dream. I've been there in 2015 and 2016.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, mostly financially, and also mentally. I was just not ready. I was too young, I think. And he was like, you will regret it in a few years if you do not try it. And I said, yeah, but people don't know me. They don't know my name. I've not ridden a road race in years, in 8 years or something in Europe. I would just do the Commonwealth Games just because Mauritius is selected, and I'll race for them. Or I'll go to World Worlds. Last year, Road Worlds, I mean, I went for the mountain bike marathon, but then I did the road because there was a spot. So why not? I mean, it wasn't my goal. So he sent emails out to a lot of teams, every single team you can think of, and he emailed them, he messaged them on LinkedIn, he everything you can think of. He was very, and I was just told them, oh my word, they are going to think we're crazy. They are not going to reply. You're crazy. This is not going to work. And we got a few answers. Obviously, some negative, some made us have hope, and then some was really positive. Had a few meetings, and obviously, Natasha gave me a shot, and I got a shot in the team. But that was very last minute. We almost didn't believe. I was on my way from doing my nails and with my mom in the car, and because it was a week before my wedding, and I get this message from Natasha saying, "Hey, we need to call." And I was in my head, I was just like, "Oh my word, like what else? What more?" You know, it's been always hope and then losing hope and hope and losing hope. So at the end, I lost hope completely. I started focusing on plan B, which was mountain biking. And I got home, got on the call, and she's like, "Yeah, you got it. You got the contract." It's like, well, and then and then in January you're going to be in Australia, and I was just, and we were end of November at this time on the phone, and I got out my room and I was in tears, and I told my parents, I got it, and yeah, then I knew I had one shot, one opportunity, only one shot, and I have to grab this.
Wow.
So it's been crazy. It's been a crazy journey. It wasn't easy. A lot of people think I got it easy, but it's been a fight for a few years. It's been a fight with myself. I almost stopped cycling a few years ago. But now it worked, and I'm blessed that I got the chance. I think I reached the right person at the right time, and
Super inspiring. But what has changed? You've obviously had to change your mindset from originally thinking, oh, this is not going to work. I'm not going to make it. Nobody knows me. You know, how am I ever going to make it in this kind of world? But now you've gone out and you've just smashed it this year. What changed for you? Was it a mindset thing, or was it a combination of what you were doing in your training and the mental side? How do you see it?
I don't know. I was really scared. I was really scared to throw myself in the deep end. Obviously, being at camp for December, that gave me a bit more comfort meeting the goals and not being in the race mode already. It was more of a chilled, but I was super nervous because obviously coming from the southern hemisphere, we are taking care more. We are more like a family vibe, and Europeans are just more rough. They're more, you know, if you're not fit or healthy at the race, we don't care. That's your problem. You need to be. It's just different. It's hard to explain, but I was super nervous to not feel welcomed. Um, so obviously meeting the goals was a big step, and then flying to Australia was a huge opportunity. I mean, it was firstly not straight into classics, which is crazy racing. So I got to kind of get to ease into the racing, bigger roads. Everyone's early season, they don't want to risk too much. But for me, it was a point of I think I wanted more than everyone else because I know what it feels like to not have anything, to not have this opportunity, to fight for financial, to fight for sponsors. To some of these girls are born into this industry and they don't know what it feels like to not have it. They almost feel spoiled, and I think that's where the difference was for me. It was an opportunity that I never believed would happen in my entire life. I was something got put into my path, and if I don't grab it now, it's not going to ever happen again. And I'm just really hungry, and I'm very competitive, and I wanted to prove them that I'm worth it, and that it was worth it to fight for me, because I do know it was a huge conversation with the sponsors to have me or not. I wanted to prove them that I'm worth it and I'm a good rider, and I'm going to be here for years to come. And I wanted to make my husband proud and my parents. That's my biggest thing. And also for me, I'm not happy just being here in South Africa or just being good. I just want to become the best. And that's maybe where I just had to work harder and just make it happen.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know how I did it, but it just happened.
Well,
I
you've
just did
obviously
it.
grabbed it with both hands and you've just run with it. And yeah, I
Yeah,
think the hunger that you describe makes the difference, compared to some of the people or the athletes that have it thrown into their laps, and it's
yeah.
easy. Although I think pro sport is never easy. You've always
Mm.
got to work hard at it, but the hunger, I think, makes a huge difference.
But I mean, also the support background from the family and my friends and my husband to have me go all that way for months. I wouldn't have done what I did this year if didn't have that insane support, before and after the races, being
Mm.
alone there, and I wouldn't have had that. So if we were not both on the same page, me and my husband, it would have never worked. And the
Yeah.
fact that he's the one that's been pushing it, it's made the world's difference.
And you've now got a further 2-year contract with them, with your team, telling you something and them putting confidence in what you've already achieved. I don't know what will.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Since I think since already March, I've had contacts. Well, other teams reached out to me already then, and I was looking at Ian, and I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't know what to do. I'm so lost. I don't know this side of the world. It's a business, basically. This is a sport, but it's a business.
Yeah.
So I had to get in contact with the agency company and get that sorted so they could look after me because, yeah, it was just too crazy. But yeah, my heart just said to stay with the team. I wasn't ready to leave, and there's so much more to be done. And yeah, really, really proud to be staying with them 2 more years.
Can you give us a perspective? I mean, you've come from the mountain biking world and you've had huge success in the mountain biking world, Swiss Epic and the Cape Epic in particular. But now obviously your heart is on the road and you've transitioned to the road. Can you give us some perspective on the difference between the two and why your heart is more on the road side of things than in mountain biking?
It's such different worlds. It's honestly so different. I mean, the mountain biking obviously taught me a lot of things, such as like skills on the bike and bike handling, being under pressure and what to do when you're under pressure on the bike, or adapt to different situations and all that sort of. It's road cycling. And it's also mountain biking is a different. It's a complete smaller team, if I have to say it. I mean, it's a team of two, and then you'll have one soigneur and one mechanic and like 3 or 4 staff max. So it's a very small family, very small community. You can rent a house and you can all stay in one house for a race. But on the road scene, it's just so much more. And I didn't know that until I went to Europe and I experienced the world tour scene. It's just so much more bigger and it's in your face bigger. You'll rock up to a race with 4 cars and the team bus and the trucks for the bikes and like for only 6 or 7 goals, and then you'll have 15 to 20 staff at the race. But for me, it's I don't know, it's more of when I started cycling in general, I started on the road and we've always been following the tour and those road races. Mountain biking wasn't as big. The cross country wasn't something we initially were following in Mauritius. We are not at all into the cross country stuff. We don't have that courses or things like that in Mauritius. Now it's obviously getting better, but that's not the sport or the discipline that would be broadcast on our TV. So we would watch the road side of things. And my brother, I have an older brother, and he was racing on the road for many, many years. So obviously our focus was more on the road scene. Um, I only switched to mountain biking because I wanted to try something different. And I was in KZN at the time, and obviously KZN is mountain biking world. And so I just tried it, and I just sticked into it because a team offered me a contract here in South Africa, and I just raced for it. I just was happy to just do mountain biking and races here in SA. But the road has always been at the back of my mind, something I wanted to do as for a living. But it's also the part of strategic racing and having, like I said, 6 or 7 goals in the team at the same time racing with you. It feels like a big family, and you race together, you sleep together, you eat together in the morning, and it just feels more. I like that family vibe, and that's what That's what I like being in. So yeah, I don't like more one of the other. But one thing I can say is that the previous years on the mountain bike scene, I've always had a day where I would wake up and not want to ride my bike or not want to race that race on the mountain bike for some reason. But this year on the road, there's not been one day where I had that feeling. I've always wanted to ride, I've always wanted to race, and I've enjoyed every single minute of it. So looking back to that, perhaps I'm living my dream, if that's how I feel.
Fantastic. Having spoken to some other athletes who are in the pro world, and we speak a lot about the data that athletes have to use and that is available to coaches and athletes at the moment, and how a lot of the data can be very overwhelming and almost take away that enjoyment of the sport and that passion for the sport. Tell us a little bit about how you use data, how you and your coach use data, and do you love it or hate it? Yeah, give us your thoughts.
I think I would love it if I'm doing a session right and I'm reaching the numbers, and I would hate it if I can't even reach the numbers.
Yeah.
But I think the relationship that me and my coach have, obviously I can ask him whatever I want, whenever I want. But I'm someone that I don't want to know too much. I like doing what he gives me, what he prescribes me. But I obviously do like seeing the numbers go up now and then. But I try to not focus too much on it. I'm someone that listens to my body quite a lot. I think that's much more important than focusing on the numbers only. So we don't really share too much between each other. I can see and he can give me, but I'm not someone that will ask every single data on every single day of my ride. Obviously now we have team coaches involved. So if I talked about numbers, I would talk cycling numbers and heart rate, but there's also numbers on how to fuel myself prior to training or post training or during training. And that kind of the team coaches helps me with that, or gym numbers on how much weight to lift or push, or on the machines. So there's a lot of different numbers, but on the cycling side of things, especially for now, I have lost a lot of COVID and post surgery, and I actually had my first, I would say, tempo session 2 days ago, and I almost died, and it was literally 50 or 60 watts lower than I normally am a month and a half ago. And I was just like, what happened? And I couldn't even keep it. And I was like, okay, well, that's when you shouldn't focus on numbers and you should just trust the process, listen to your body. You've gone through surgery, you've gone through COVID, you're still recovering. Just turn the pedals, enjoy riding the bike. Because if you start hating it now and we're only starting and the season hasn't even started an inch for next year, then you're going to be in big trouble. So there's also a very fine line on when to focus on numbers and when not to focus on numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fine line. Not a big fan of it, but also there is a time where I am, for sure, my focus is very, very serious on it.
And let's talk about some of the fads that are swirling around the pro peloton in Europe. And I mean, for one thing, we know that the pros are looking at taking in so many more carbohydrates per hour to fuel performance. I mean, we're looking at things like ketones and various nutritional strategies. Have you come into contact much with that? How does it work in the women's world tour?
Yeah, so yes, the team is slowly but surely starting to be more like the men's team, so very serious on nutrition and fueling the body, because obviously that's their job to make sure that we fuel ourselves correctly. So yes, obviously for me it's been a huge adjustment this year. I'm still learning, so I'm not 100%, my knowledge is not 100% yet on all these things, because I was clueless in the past. I didn't make an effort to know. It's not that I didn't have the data to know or the people to ask, which I do. I was interested to find out until now, because now I'm at the highest level and I need to do everything right. So yes, at the races, for example, at the tour, we had a morning stage and an afternoon TT. So on a day like this, we would have a program of when to eat, what to eat, how to take it, and how much liquids as well, in terms of being able to keep enough energy for the afternoon TT, but also not take too much caffeine so that you can't sleep at night because it's a late afternoon TT. So it's very precise as well in the team on how they tell you and what to take and how to take it. We obviously got introduced to keto, but keto is only got given to the riders above, if I'm not mistaken, 24, 25-year-olds, not younger riders in the team, which was also something very interesting. I got introduced to cherry juice, which I never had before in the past. We don't have this luxury here in South Africa, I believe. So cherry juice, we would have it at night with water, and directly after, no, sorry, at night only the cherry juice, and after the races we would have it with water. Keto straight after the race as well, in stage races at night as well. So and they drop it at your door and they give it to you, and luckily it's not something you have to think of doing, because as a rider, if you do a stage race, you're tired and you don't think about it, and then you underfuel yourself. So they would give it to us in our rooms and we would take it. And then we would also have, I mean, it's not really nutritional, but it is something to mention. We would have urine testing every morning of racing to see if we are hydrated, especially in stage races. And from there, kind of weigh yourself before and after the race to see how much you've lost and if you need to drink more or not. So everyone's different. So it's not like a one number for everyone. Everyone has different carbs intake, protein intake, and obviously liquids. So it's very precise, but it's something I'm still kind of learning, and it's a lot of stuff, a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting.
And I mean, have you felt that it's made a difference? Do you think the results that you've had this year can be attributed to those changes that you've made?
I for sure think it would make a percentage of difference. But I actually had this chat with my teammates at the tour about this, because I was like, do you feel, because I asked them, do you feel a difference? Does it make you feel better? And then I said, for me, in my mind, how I think, I might be wrong, but it's like if someone tells you this will make you faster by 5%, and then you drink it and you'll say, I'm going to be faster tomorrow by 5%. So your mental state is already positive, 5% extra. Yes, it probably makes you better physically, but your mental also gets a boost from it, because it helps your recovery, and it helps it just, for me, it's a mental thing more than a physical thing, because as an athlete, if your head is stronger, you can push further.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do believe obviously these products wouldn't exist if it didn't work. It's just I've only been using it for 1 year, so it's hard to tell.
And I guess at the level that you performing at, I mean, it's very incremental gains. So, it's not like somebody who's just starting out and can realize big gains in a short space of time. You guys are making gains in smaller increments as you go, and so maybe it's not as noticeable. You talk a lot about the mental side as well, and I think you indicated at the beginning of the chat that you work with a mental coach. How does the sports psychology, do you have somebody on the team that you speak to regularly and interact with? How does it work?
No, I've decided, I mean, we have options to have someone on the team, but I've decided to go private. In the past, I used to have someone from Mauritius that works via the Olympic Athlete Committee. But for me, it didn't work. It felt too far. And I need someone that's a bit more closer to me and I can relate. So now I work privately, but yeah, it works fine for me. It's something new. It's not something that I've always wanted to do, but it's a tough step to take as a person and as an athlete, because you're really opening up to this person and you're trusting this person to help you, basically to listen and to help. So no, yes, we do have options with the team. The team gives us a lot of options, such as nutritionist or physio or coaching or mental coach, but you can also decide to go private if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I recently had a conversation with a sports psychologist, and he was telling me, I said up to 50% of your performance is mental. And he said he disagreed with me. And he said, I think more like 80% of your performance is mental at the end of the day.
Mm.
Said, in the professional space at the moment, if you are not actively working on and training your mental capacity and aptitude, he said you're missing the boat completely. And it's so great to hear of more and more athletes who are speaking out about working on the mental side of things and really honing their performance in terms of that.
No, it can change a lot. I've experienced a few steps this year, and that was prior working with a sports psychologist. Like in the Giro, when I had a day where I was vomiting all over on that one stage, and I was a GC rider, and then I lost the next day 16 minutes, and then the last day I won the stage, and I don't know how I did it, but I woke up that last day because I didn't have any pressure anymore of being GC rider. I woke up on stage 8 and I was so not even tired. I was so happy. I was like always laughing, always smiling. And I told my DS, I'm going to win today. Like, I feel good. I'm going to win. I'm going to kill them. And it's just that mental, and that blew my mind. As soon as you speak positive to yourself and you keep positive words and you positive the whole time, your body just follows. If you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm tired, or my watch is saying I'm tired, and then you're not gonna your body just follows. Oh no, my watch says I can't perform today. I will not perform. I'm gonna drop. And I felt that a lot. And obviously it's hard, it's easier said than done. But I guess that they help with that sort of things, to kind of believe in yourself more and keep that positive mindset. Because anything can happen. You just have to
Keep
you just have to push through it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're running out of time a little bit, but maybe you can just talk us through one of the worst days that you've had on the bike and how you've pushed through it, how you got yourself through it, and yeah, what kind of tips you have for our listeners out there as to pushing through the hard times.
Yeah. Olympic Games was kind of a disappointing one for me. It was a race of really, I wouldn't say it's the hardest day on my bike, but I would probably say mentally it was a tough one. It was a very special day for me and very important, and something I've been obviously working towards, as all the athletes were, for 4 years. And I just, luck wasn't on my side, and I had a mechanical and the race was over for me. And the hardest part was I had to fix the wheel and ride the kind of the rest of the course to the finish again. And I saw so many Mauritian flags on the sidelines, so many. And it was just my race going on, obviously women's race. So I knew they were there just for me. And that was probably one of the hardest days I've had. I was in tears the whole way till the line because I knew they were there for me and I kind of let them down. And that's how I felt. I let them down. I let myself down and let everyone else that supported me down, and my country. And the pressure from the country is pressure that I can't describe. It's, yeah, obviously they all want you to do the best, but you want to give it back. And not being able to do that was really, really tough. But once I got home and after beating myself a lot, I started getting messages or reading comments that they were still super proud and that no matter what, they'll still support. And I think that's what's the most important to remember, that you're just human and things happen and you can't control some things, and you just have to move on and believe that if people are really there to support, they'll stay there for the long run and not drop you after one bad turn.
It's really insightful having you open up about being human. I think we view our pro athletes as superhuman and sort of being able to handle everything and anything that's thrown at them. But it's really lovely hearing about the difficulties and how you overcome them and the lessons that you've learned through your journey. And yeah, we just wish you all the very best in what lies ahead. What is the plan now for going back to Europe? What is the next step?
So I'm going Saturday to team days. So I'm meeting the new goals, seeing the sponsors, kind of team building for 4 or 5 days. So that's step number one. And then obviously there's team camp in December, as we always do every year. And I will be back in Europe in February next year. For most probably my first race will be Strade Bianchi in March. We don't have the calendar yet, so we haven't decided. This is going to happen in the next few weeks. So yeah, I can't say much, but I do know there's big goals, and I've put big goals for myself. As I performed already this year, I need to beat those performance. So we'll see. It's going to be good. It's going to be great.
Wonderful. Well, we wish you all the best with your rehab. Take it day by day, and I'm sure you're going to be making strides. And yeah, we're definitely going to be watching you from afar with everything that's coming up. Wishing you all the best for the new season. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was awesome.
Cheers.